Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Aimee here. A little bit of a different setting today. I'm in my office. I have everything here with me, so I figured we'll just film in the office space. So anyway, today we are going to talk about some books that I have already read. If you haven't noticed, I haven't done a wrap up in a little bit. So we're going to start wrapping up some books. It's a little warm in here, but we'll get through it. So this is going to be basically my August wrap up. I have down 7 books for the month of August. The last bit of this year just hasn't been a good reading year for me, I guess. I'm slacking. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know if I just don't know what I want to read or what. I don't know what's happening, but probably the lowest year I've had in a really long time as far as reading goes. Even my Goodreads, I have not met my goal on Goodreads, so we need to change that up. So anyway, okay, so let's get started. Like I said, this is basically going back to August. I started the month off with this little novella. This is a baseball male romance. It's called Dirty Slide, and it's by KD Casey and Lauren Blakely. Super hot, sexy, quick little read. I read this in like one afternoon by the pool, in the pool. Loved it. So we have Chris and Josh. Chris and Josh are on rivalry teams. Oh, my lighting back. I'm using my computer as my lighting. They are on different baseball teams basically, and Chris is a kind of a love 'em and leave 'em type of guy. So it's just a quick little sexy read about these two guys hooking up and how they just tease each other throughout the baseball season. Josh is more, he's looking for more. He wants more in his relationship than just a hookup. So as much as Josh tries his hardest not to let Chris tempt him, in the end, we know how it goes. So anyway, it was really hot, really sexy, short novella, no BS, just get to the point. I had a good time with it. Next up, another male romance. This is Heels Overhead by Elise Springer. Really loved this. Gave it 4 stars only because I just got a little frustrated with one of our characters. So we have Jeremy. Jeremy is a competitive diver. His goal is to get to the Olympics, win the gold medal. And then we have Brandon. Brandon's just trying to make it. His parents kicked him out the house when he came out to them. So he's just been going to school with this like diver scholarship. He's been sleeping on friends' couches. And then he gets this opportunity to move on to train for the Olympics with like one of the best trainers, as well as like with Jeremy. Jeremy would be like his partner in the diving category. So yeah, whereas Jeremy is very sort of uptight and just very professional, we have Brandon, who is fun and sweet and just a tattooed dream, and he just wants Jeremy to loosen up and give in to what he wants. So yeah, back to Jeremy. He grew up with his father and his 2 brothers. They come across as very homophobic, and it's very upsetting. But yet they still, they still accept Jeremy in a way, because Jeremy is almost like their ticket to, whatever they have. Jeremy is sponsored by a lot of brands, so he brings home all his stuff to his brothers and his father, and that's kind of why they keep him around, which is a horrible thing to do, and messes with Jeremy's head, and all he wants to do is fit in and be accepted by his father and his brothers. This was a pretty thick book, a pretty long story, and I just felt like it did get to a point where it was dragging a little bit with too much of Jeremy just being mean to Brandon and denying his feelings, and but yet wanted Brandon to be there, and infatuated sort of like with Brandon's appeal, I guess. The whole diving Olympic story is sort of in the background to Brandon and Jeremy's individual stories, as well as their stories together as they get to know each other. And the further along their relationship gets, as far as like even their diving relationship and their friendship, Jeremy starts to give in a little bit, and he's getting those first times with Brandon, and he's realizing what he's missed out on all these years. So in that way, it was just a great book and a great read to read Jeremy's story and see how he progresses and how he gives into those feelings. And I just loved Brandon. Like I said, Brandon is just very sweet, and he's fun, and he just, even though Jeremy can be very mean to him and really reject him at times, all he wants is Jeremy just to loosen up and have a good time, no matter what. So I really did love these guys, even though Jeremy got a little annoying to me at times, and I really disliked his family. And it, like I said, the story did kind of, I felt it drug a little bit, but otherwise it's a great story between these two guys, as well as their individual stories. Next, I picked up a thriller. This is The Writing Retreat. This is by Julia Bartz. I gave this a 3-star. It was just okay for me. I felt it was a very slow burn type of thriller for the most part. I was pretty bored with this storyline. We do get a book within a book, which I do enjoy, and I did like that. It did pick up towards the end, but I found that it was just very anticlimactic towards the end, and it just didn't do really anything for me. I also did not like any of the characters and was not interested in any of them, therefore also sort of making the story slow for me. And I feel like I also had a hard time just following the story. I don't know if it was because I didn't really like any of the characters, but I still wanted to know where it was going, so I kept reading it, and there were points in the story that, you know, I was like, okay, I like that. Hence why I gave it the 3-star, because in the end, even though it was anticlimactic for me, there were points in the story that I did like, and a few twists that I did not see coming. So anyway, we have Alex. She has pretty much given up her dream to become a writer. But she's offered this chance to go on this writing retreat that is put on by one of her favorite authors. She's kind of at a point in her life where she's like, you know, I have nothing to lose, so why not? There's also a little backstory with her ex-best friend, who will also be there at the retreat. So there's a little bit of something there between those two characters. But along the way, through this journey of writing their story, strange things start to happen, and the author putting on the writing retreat, and the author who was putting on the retreat, she was very strange. And she definitely does not appear, or she's not who she seems to be, basically. So yeah, so there were some good points to this book, even though I did not like any of the characters. I did also listen to this on audio, and I did enjoy the narration, so that was also a plus that made me stay interested in the story. Then we have another thriller. It's more like a domestic drama, I would say. But anyway, I really enjoyed it, surprisingly. I just had a feeling for some reason that I wasn't gonna like this. I don't know why, but I did really end up enjoying it. I gave it 4 stars. So we have Pippa and Gabe, who bought like basically their dream home overlooking like this cliff. And since they've been there have been many attempts of other people coming to this cliff to end their life. And Gabe has like gone out and like talked them off the ledge basically, until one day he doesn't. So there is the mystery of that aspect. Like, who was it? Why did they do it? Pippa seems to have seen something while Gabe was out there talking to this person. We also get the point of view from this person. So it's almost like this person's ghostly image is like looking over the scene and telling us their story, which I found very interesting, and I loved that aspect of the book. There's a lot going on in this story, so really pay attention. I listened to this on audio. It was fantastic. I loved it. There was great twist, in my opinion, in the end. Yeah, there's just so much to this story that cannot be said because I don't want to give anything away, but it's definitely worth the read. If you were thinking the same as me, like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna like this. It's by Sally Hepworth, by the way. I don't know if I said that, but I enjoyed it. I definitely think if you haven't tried it, you should definitely give it a go. Just some fascinating discoveries toward the end. Great twist. I love the ghostly presence of this person. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say about it. Next, I picked up Jennifer Hillier's Little Secrets. Also loved it. I think this might be my favorite so far. I've only read a few Jennifer Hillier's, but this one was definitely a good one. I gave it 4 stars. Great read, great twist at the end. So we have Marin. Marin has lost her son. Is perfect time to read this as well. It's kind of set during Christmas time. Of course, I'm probably late to the game. Y'all have probably already read this, but she loses her son. Like just a second, she lets go of his hand and he's gone. A year later goes by and he is still missing. Also another book with just a lot of little details to pay attention to, and I can't really talk much about it without giving anything away, but definitely worth the read. I did listen to this also on audio. Love the narration. But back to Marin and her story. She does end up hiring a PI and learns some very interesting things about someone in her past that she's trusted. And that's all I can say about that. But yeah, great twist, great story. I loved it. I'm gonna put a picture of this book over here. This is Kalens Atlas. This is part of the Briggs Ferry Bay series that I was reading. This is by Kay Webster. I was so glad to be back into Kay Webster's world after reading that last book that's part of the series. I just didn't like it at all. But we're back with Kay Webster and her writing, continuing this story with Kalen. So Kalen is the brother, Dante's brother from the first book. They moved from New York to Briggs Ferry Bay to open up the bed and breakfast there. So as I feel like you could read this as a standalone, I feel like you would get more of this story in the background if you start with the first book. You could actually skip the second book. You don't need that book at all. You could just read the first book and go to the third book, because it pretty much kind of continues from the first book. Okay, sorry about that. I had a visitor. So back to what I was saying. So Kalen, Dante had a lot of trouble with Kalen in the first book. Briggs Ferry Bay is a very homophobic little town. That's one thing I didn't like about the story. So this book kind of focuses on that homophobia and the people involved, which kind of goes back to the first book, because there's an incident in that book that happens to Kalen, which brings us to the third book and how his story continues, how he's functioning. So this takes place a year after the first book. But in this book, our new character is Atlas, and he is actually one of our characters from the first book's brother. It's a she, but I don't remember her name off the top of my head. But anyway, she works in the police department, and she has her brother, I think her brother's ex-military as well, so, and he's looking for a job and they need help because of all the homophobes in Briggs Ferry Bay. a lot of trouble happening. There's still the Rainbow Vigilant that's going on in Briggs Ferry Bay, which we find out in this book who the Rainbow Vigilant is. I've been waiting for that. Like, who is leaving all the rainbows everywhere around Briggs Ferry Bay? We find out in this book. So in comes Atlas, and right away, which I feel, I wouldn't say it's insta-love. It's very more like insta-lust, which I'm okay with. But there was no like easing into this relationship. There is an age gap between Kalen and Atlas, because Kalen is like, he's still in high school, I think. Like senior year maybe. And then we have Atlas, of course, who's probably close to his 30s, maybe upper 20s, something like that. So yeah, a little bit of an age gap, but I mean, that doesn't bother me at all. Just throwing that out there for those that may like or not like that. Atlas is, he's very forward right away to Kalen, and they have sort of like this hate-love relationship going on, which sort of works for them. I thought it was going to end up to be some sort of like daddy kink kind of story, which it depends. It really depends on the writing of it and like the flow of the story, I guess, on, you know, how I feel about that. I'm not a huge fan of daddy kink, but you know, whatever. But in this story, it worked. It was very light, sort of daddy kink. So in this story, of course, we have Atlas and Kalen's relationship story. And of course, then we have Kalen's story in the background of what that reflects off of what happened to him in the first book, and then all the hatred and homophobic people that are after Kalen in this book. So I know this is more of a romance sort of story, but that aspect of the story, like who is doing this and the punishment for these homophobes, it happens really fast at the end. Like it's like all just kind of like rolled up into one little happy ball of it all got, you know, resolved kind of thing, which is fine. I know this is more of a romance, is more focusing on Kalen and Atlas, but in a way, being, you know, the thriller mystery lover in me wanted more of that too. But yeah, just know there is a happily ever after at the end. But it was a great story. I gave it 4 stars. But I think I'm done with the Briggs Ferry Bay series. I don't think I'm going to go into the last story, which is written by Misty Walker. This is the book that I have. It's the full series. The last story is Leaf's Serenity, but it actually has nothing to do with any of the other stories. I mean, it takes place in Briggs Ferry Bay, but I don't know any of these characters. The one character that lives in Briggs Ferry Bay is mentioned in the other book, probably more the second book really than the first book. But I'm not familiar with the character, and being as well, I didn't really like the writing style and everything of the second story. I'm not going to continue with the series. But yeah, I do think the first book, Sheriff's Secret, as well as Kalens Atlas, are definitely great picks from this series. Okay, so then I picked up The Kind Worth Saving by Peter Swanson. And just like The Kind Worth Killing, I did not find this appealing whatsoever. I'm not even sure like why this is considered a series. I guess because we follow the PI Kimball in the second book, and he of course is part of the first book. And then because it says The Kind Worth Saving, Henry Kimball and Lily Kenter #2. Lily doesn't really come into play till like the very last part of the book, when Kimball sort of goes to her for help. So I really I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I just did not feel the appeal of The Kind Worth Killing as well as The Kind Worth Saving. So like I said, we follow mostly P.I. Kimball in here, as well as her name is Joan is our other character. She's kind of giving us a timeline. She's going back to her, is it high school? Kimball was a teacher. I don't remember what grade. I want to say high school, and she was one of his former students. So there's a story there. There's an incident that happened while he was a teacher at this school, which sort of reflects onto the whole story and where it's going. So yeah, we have Joan, who's kind of giving us the timeline of she's taking us back. And then of course we have Kimball, who is the detective in the story. She goes to him because she thinks her husband is cheating on her. And during the investigation, there's some twists to that story. And I did get a little confused along the way because there's two characters that I thought was actually one character. But anyway, maybe that was just me and just not understanding what I was reading. And I think that was kind of one of the twists that kind of stumped me a little bit. I was like, wait, what? But I felt like it didn't really relate to the first book at all, except for, you know, P.I. Kimball and Lily from the first book, who, like I said, Kimball kind of recruits her to help him out with the investigation. But yeah, along the way, as he's following Joan's husband, he finds out some other little details, and which leads into sort of different scenarios. It's not just a cheating husband kind of thing. It was okay. I gave it a 3-star. I just don't see the appeal that everyone was like, love the kind worth killing, and then here comes this one, and a lot of people said the same thing, that they loved it as well. I don't know. I just didn't see it, but it was okay. It was okay. I did like the timelines that our character Joan gave us, like I said. I did listen to it. The narration was really good. We have a little cast of characters in this book, which I always love, getting different voices for our characters. But yeah, that's it. That's all I got. That was my month of August. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these or if you've gotten some recommendations. Don't forget that my friend Ashley and I are going to be doing a readathon, a 72-hour readathon that takes place from December 1st to December 3rd. We have the group read, The Christmas Presents by Lisa Unger. If you want to join in, we're going to have a discussion on that on Instagram on December 3rd. Just let me know. Go to my page and leave a comment underneath that Instagram post that you want to be in the group or that you'll be reading the book. I'll add you to the group. All the details are in that Instagram post, as well as I saved it in one of my story reels. You can go click on that as well. But I will be doing a video with recommendations and talking about the prompts and what I'll be reading. So stay tuned for that. That'll probably be my next video, since December is just around the corner, y'all. Like, Thanksgiving is, as I'm filming this, it's next week. So the year is just flying by. So I hope y'all are having a lovely holiday season so far. Hugs from me all around. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye, y'all.